morning. So I just finished reading A Picture of Dorian Gray and I had some thoughts. So what better way to talk about them than in a get ready with me. I need to get my bangs up. So the irony is most definitely not lost on me. I thought it'd be kind of funny to talk about Dorian Gray while getting ready because of vanity, and that kind of segues perfectly into what I wanted to talk about today. I think when I was reading Dorian Gray, I just realized there were so many themes that were still so applicable to modern day society. I normally like to do my eyes first before I do my base makeup. Yeah, but if you wanted my review on Dorian Gray, I did upload a video on Instagram and TikTok on a quick review, and I think I kind of touch on what I want to talk about today in those videos, which is the idea that while I was reading the novel, I couldn't help but link it to social media, and the idea of how when we portray ourselves on social media, we like to portray ourselves as this picture perfect individual, or like the images we put on social media are often very curated. And I was also thinking about this because I feel like sometimes when I'm scrolling on social media, there's a sort of emptiness that I feel after seeing so many similar, perfectly curated images. And the lack of imperfection kind of leads to the feeling that something is not human. And I think I kind of related that to how Sybil, the artist who drew the portrait of Dorian Gray, felt about Dorian Gray. He seemed to really idolize Dorian Gray, but at the same time he didn't want to see his imperfections. And I think throughout the book he kind of turns a willful blind eye and is sort of ignorant towards Dorian Gray, I guess, more morally corrupt side. And I think we see that with social media a lot too, where influencers and people we look up to are often a very specifically curated image, and sometimes when those images fall apart or they do something that's outside of that picture perfect image, they can face a lot of backlash and criticism. I think that's especially prevalent within female influencers and female celebrities, because we're held to, and I feel like sometimes women are held to a different standard of morality in comparison to men. And so yeah, while reading this novel, I couldn't help but kind of relate that back to social media and how we're all so desperate to create this picture perfect image of ourselves on the media, just like how Dorian Gray is trying to keep, and just like how Dorian Gray keeps his outward appearance perfect, but all his flaws and imperfections are revealed in that painting of his. This is also a really cute little Chanel brush that I like to use. And I think sometimes because everything we see on social media is so picture perfect and devoid of human imperfection, it breeds a sort of loneliness. I feel like even I myself am, I guess, victim or perpetrator of kind of trying to appear perfect on social media, but at the same time it is what the algorithm requires and kind of what you need to succeed on social media, to look aesthetically pleasing, to frame things in a nice way that make things visually pleasing. So I'm also trying to make a conscious effort to be vulnerable about the realities of things and be unafraid to show sort of little imperfections here and there. I think there's also a beauty in imperfection and being quote unquote like flawed. That's also reflected in the book when Dorian Gray kind of realizes that being this picture perfect human can be a very lonely existence where no one really understands him, no one understands what he's going through because it's not shown, and he cannot connect to other people on a human level. It also mentioned that she kind of saw the picture of Dorian Gray from another perspective, where she saw it as a reflection of how people kind of impede and change their moral compass depending on their goals in life, which I also kind of see. Dorian Gray as a character, for him to stay beautiful, he kind of sells his soul. And I think that's also reflective of how sometimes we as humans, in order to attain our goals, we compromise or we change the way we see morality as a way to reconcile with the things we have to do in order to attain X, Y, or Z. Oh, and this is a total side note, but this morning the Wi-Fi cut out and I had a job interview. So that was really stressful because the Wi-Fi literally died and I don't have good enough service up here to use my mobile hotspot. So there was a lot of frantic trying to figure out what the heck to do to ensure that I can do this work interview. Despite my relation to social media, I will say that I feel like in the recent years there is a lot more influencers and creators who are very candid and very down to earth, which I really enjoy watching. I feel like there's a movement towards being more candid and to being more open on social media about the realities of life instead of kind of creating this picture perfect curated image of the it girl or like the most productive person you can ever be. I feel like nowadays, especially on social media, people are more vocal about mental health and about the struggles they face as influencers or as individuals who create, which I really enjoy, and I think it also opens up the market for people to be more vulnerable and to be more open about their own experiences. I think social media has also expanded so much that there's more niches. Like, I feel like you can find a community from being vulnerable instead of there only being a one-size-fits-all in terms of what it means to be an influencer, what it means to be a creator. And so I'm also really glad and very excited to see that change happening. There's more of an emphasis, but maybe this might be because of the people I follow and the feed that I have curated. I think there's more of an emphasis on community building and kind of bonding over shared hobbies, interests. I think having that sort of emphasis makes the content that I see on social media more human and more grounded in the lived experiences of the daily. That's kind of what I was thinking about as I was reading Dorian Gray, just kind of how social media can often feel very lonely and isolating because of how picture perfect, and I guess you can say quote unquote soulless, just like Dorian Gray was, some content can be, but at the same time, the market and the type of content created is always shifting and changing, and I think it's just so fascinating how sure that was published like ages ago can still be so relevant to today's society and can be still so applicable and relevant to contemporary issues, debates, and concepts. At the same time, it just might be my interpretation. And I feel like the way you interpret books is always going to be shaped and influenced by the culture and the kind of social discussions happening at your time. Now I'm gonna put on some lashes. This is gonna be interesting because you wanna see how I'm doing my makeup. Okay. This is quite literally my setup, so I hope I don't poke myself in the eye. So yeah, I'm curious what you guys have been reading. I feel like I've been thinking about, I have a Kindle that my boyfriend really nicely loaned me / gave me because he doesn't use his anymore, but yeah, I've been thinking about using it more because I found a book that I've been wanting to read for a long while on Amazon Kindle for like $1, so I instantly bought it. So I will have to read that book on the Kindle anyways. Yeah, so I'm curious what you guys have been reading, kind of what relations you have been thinking about, and what impact the current literature you are reading have had on you. Right now I'm reading Six of Crows because I watched the Netflix adaptation. And recently I've been feeling in a bit of a kind of reading slump. And so I think when I feel like I'm in a reading slump, I like to break out fiction fantasy novels that are more like young adult, books that you don't analyze and books you just kind of cruise and read and follow the plot. And so yeah, it's been really fun just reading. So it's been really fun just kind of reading for reading and not analyzing anything. I think there's also a fun in analyzing and dissecting large concepts or kind of analyzing books to relate them to certain themes, topics, or emotions, but at the same time, sometimes I just want to turn my brain off and just not think. Let me know if you guys like this type of video, like something that's a little more impromptu and a little more personal, where I just kind of talk about things that I've been thinking about. Wow, look at these bangs. Things that I've been like thinking about or like reflecting on the books I've recently read. I think I really enjoy talking about books and kind of unpacking themes within books. And sometimes when I make my Instagram short reviews, I can't speak too much about themes and too much and go into depth or like explain things, as at the end of the day Instagram and TikTok are more short form content. So if you're ever interested in something like this where I talk a little more uninformally and a little more personal, let me know. I quite enjoy making these videos. I feel like sometimes it's a little hard to talk while doing my makeup, but I think we made it work. So yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!